I don't know which team has the better tight end, but I
Hello,
do know
welcome back
that
to
could
another
very well be the difference in
NFL
this
season
game
prediction
today.
video. This time, the Detroit Lions. Last year, the Lions had an average season as they are still trying to find a bit of an identity on defense, at least in the backfield. They're still trying to find a consistent running game, but they are still an average team at best right now, and at least they're not the the late 2000s team where they couldn't win more than 3 games in a season. So, with the loss of Calvin Johnson, this team will also struggle to find an identity on offense, I believe. But we will see how they do. So let's start with the wins, starting with the Tennessee Titans. I don't think the Titans are going to be very good. I think they're going to have a lot of issues. They're a very young team. They have a lot of new guys coming into the system with a new head coach. I think this team is going to struggle this season. Next, a win against the Philadelphia Eagles. Kind of the same thing with Tennessee, except new system, but not as much young talent or talent in the first place. I think Philly has offensive talent, but not a lot on defense. I think Detroit's offense is what will keep them in games this season. Then, Los Angeles Rams. Rams front four, very good. After that, that team's very weak. Offensively, they're going to be starting a rookie quarterback with no really starting receiver. Or no number one receiver, I mean. So, we will see about that team. But I believe Detroit will pick up the win due to a strong passing attack. Then, that is their last win before the bye week. Entering their bye week with 3 wins. They exit bye week with an upset victory over the Minnesota Vikings. I give Detroit this game based around their offense. I think Detroit will be able to put up enough points on the board to keep Minnesota's offense at bay, as Minnesota is almost strictly a defensive team at this point.
It's not as easy as it looks. That quarterback,
so
good job of
I say that Detroit will take an upset win over Minnesota. Then a win against the New Orleans Saints. Again, New Orleans offense is going to put a lot of points on the board. It's the fact of the matter that their defense will not be able to keep up to the teams and keep them off the board. So I say New Orleans takes the loss among other losses. Then, a win against the Chicago Bears. Again, I'll give them the win against the Bears here due to they are a slightly better overall team than the Bears currently. The Bears have a lot of issues on defense, as do Detroit, but again, we will see. And their last win of the season will come at the end of the year against the Green Bay Packers. And the reason I give them this win is based around the fact that Green Bay will most likely bench starters. Green Bay knows they can't get Green Bay will have clinched a playoff spot by this point. Green Bay will have clinched a division crown. I think. I remember how I set up Minnesota. Maybe not. Either way, I'm going to give them this win, no matter what. I'm going to give Detroit this win based around the fact that I'm assuming, I can't remember how I set up Green Bay and Minnesota, but I'm pretty sure at this point I have Green Bay clinching the division crown. So they won't need to play their starters, and they'll just sit their starters, and Detroit will pick up an easy win. Still playing their starters because of pride and all that fun stuff. And unfortunately, that is only Detroit's 7th win of the season, meaning they will just miss out on a winning or a neutral record, and it will not allow them to be contending for a playoff spot. So let's just talk about some of the losses, starting in Week 1 with the Indianapolis Colts. I give them this loss based around the fact that I think Indianapolis as an offense will be able to move the ball in the passing attack very efficiently against a Detroit secondary that includes Darius Slay and Darius Slay. Then a loss to the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay is an overall more well-rounded team, so I give Green Bay this victory.
What a good scheme that time by the defense. They confuse the offense. They blitz. They don't know who to pick up. And how about the defender?
Then a loss to Chicago. Chicago and Detroit are similar in the fact that they do not really have an identity at this point, but they do have something that is solid offenses with good weapons and a good enough quarterback. So, I say Chicago takes the win, but probably in a close one. Then a loss to the Washington Redskins. Washington, well-rounded, good defense, pretty good offense. Washington finally has their quarterback of the future. At least they believe so, in Kirk Cousins. And I think that Kirk Cousins will have a good game, throwing it to his many weapons that he has. Then a loss to the Houston Texans. Houston's a very well-rounded team. I say that word a lot, but it's mostly because it's usually true. Houston has a lot of weapons, has a lot of stuff on that defensive side of the ball. And I say that Houston takes an easy win against Detroit. Also, I've been mentioning Detroit's offensive line, which is still pretty not amazing. So, then their last loss before the bye week will come to the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota is a well-rounded team. Again, I sound like a broken record. But Minnesota have a fantastic defense to pair with a pretty good offense. I say Minnesota wins that game pretty easily. And that will allow Detroit to enter their bye week with a 3-6 record. Exiting their bye week, they will take a loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville is a very young team, and I feel like they'll be able to beat out Detroit's offense with a very good offense on the Jacksonville side of the ball.
First down at the 20. The reception is made by Murray.
A loss to the New York Giants. I feel like the Giants' revamped defense will be able to put pressure on Matthew Stafford and not allow him to move the ball to Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, whoever he's trying to throw it to. And overall, Detroit will struggle. And their last loss of the season will come to the Dallas Cowboys. I say Dallas wins this game based around the fact that, again, great running game, good passing game in Dallas. That offensive line is disgusting. But, again, Detroit actually could win this game based around the fact that Dallas has no pass rush, so they won't be able to get a lot of pressure on Matthew Stafford.
Managing that clock, such a big deal in the NFL.
So again, at 7-9, the Detroit Lions will actually be tied for third place or last place in their division at 7-9. And let's move into my bold predictions. I do a bold prediction for every single major position group: quarterback, running back, wide receiver. If I can't think of a good one for wide receiver, I'll usually just jump to tight end and skip over wide receiver. Either way, I only do one or the other. I don't do offensive linemen, as it's kind of a weird position to try and do a bold prediction for, as there is no statistics for it. Same thing with punters and kickers. I do defensive linemen, linebackers, and defensive backs.
As we continue in a moment.
So let's start with the quarterback position, and that is Matthew Stafford. Matt Stafford, although in his first season without Calvin Johnson, had a down season throwing for less than 4,000 yards, I say 3,400, and only 25 touchdowns to 10 interceptions.
Yeah, a lot of things change in that locker room at halftime. You know, you might
a running
feel good
back,
about what you've done. Of course,
the Lions still struggle to find a consistent, solid starting running back. Theo Riddick has a bad season, only rushing for 600 yards and only 3 touchdowns.
And that's what happened that time.
But at wide receiver, Marvin Jones actually has a very good season and shows some flashes of a Calvin Johnson-esque player.
Great situation to be in for
getting
the
some
defense
big
right
plays,
here. It's third
and
long, even
receiving
though their
for
team is
1,000
losing the
yards
game,
and
you could get
80
after the
catches.
quarterback and hope you could find a way to force a turnover.
Could have been intercepted.
Next,
The Lions really don't
defensive
have much of a
lineman.
chance of
I'm
picking
going to
up
say
this first
Ezekiel
down. It's
Ansah
third
ends
long.
up
Of course, the
being
defense is looking for
in the
passes
top
down the
5 in
field.
sacks.
They're all
I'm going to
over
say
everything,
13 and a
the
half.
pass goes incomplete.
And will get consideration for Defensive Player of the Year.
He's got a chance for a return.
Next,
Taken down
linebacker.
at the 33.
I'm going to
That
say
return's good for
that
about 13.
Kyle Van Noy will have a breakout season rotating in, and he will have 8 sacks. And overall, will take over a starting role by
Murray
midseason.
lined up in a single back formation.
He starts the season rotating in, show some flashes,
Titans take
and
it
then
from
we'll
the
start by the
33.
end of the season as a full-time pass rusher pretty much at outside linebacker.
Picks up 7.
Next. Oh, okay.
The defense will take the penalty.
Next, defensive backs. Darius Slay will be tied for second place, in the NFL with 6 interceptions.
The Titans take it from the 23.
And that is pretty much it for the Lions. At 7-9, they obviously will not be making the playoffs. But I think the Lions are a team that will continue to improve as they work on the offensive line and depth at defensive back. And overall, I think Detroit does have a bright future in the next couple of seasons once they get over the fact that they have lost their superstar in Calvin
He's
Johnson.
averaging about 4 yards a carry.
Coming up next is the Green Bay Packers.
A draw play on third long. Why? Because they're just looking for field position.
Green
pick
Bay
up a few yards,
should be
and then by
interesting,
some miracle, if the running back's
and
able
we
to
will
make guys miss,
see.
break some tackles,
But
and
for
pick up
now,
a first
this
down,
is J-Wack
man, that's just gravy.
signing off.